Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Ra. This is a Rainer Knizia game from, I think, 99. It's been reprinted a few times. This is the new 25th Century Games version, the Pharaoh edition, which is the deluxe version. And I'll get into the differences between the retail and the deluxe. There isn't a whole lot, but it's just a interesting remake of a classic game, and we'll get right in and tell you what's inside. So first thing on the Pharaoh edition versus the standard edition, the box is slightly larger. I think it looks exactly the same. It's just a hair smaller. And then that's because some of the extra components that are in here. First thing right on the top, we have the rule book, and it's only a couple pages long. There isn't much to it. Like what, 7, 8 pages with the back. There is a mistake on the front page, and it's nothing to do with gameplay. It doesn't affect anything, but the descriptions of what these tiles are called, they're in the wrong spots. They do make a sticker that you can print out and stick over that to fix it, but I love that this, I don't know if you can get it on the camera, but it has a real nice linen finish to it. If I can get the reflection just right, you can see it. And I don't want to put the sticker on there and ruin that. So, like I said, it doesn't affect the game at all, but it's worth noting that it's there. You have your components list on the front page here, an overview of how the game works. Here's your setup. This does have the individual player boards, which I really liked. One of the foreign versions had something like that in the previous version I played. And then depending on the number of players, you're going to be using different ones of the sun tokens. And then we get into how to play the game, what the actions you can do on a turn are. And I will admit, I already knew how to play the game when this came out, so I did not learn how to play from these rules. But it seems like most everything you need is straightforward in here. And then this shows the player board and where you put your tiles, and then basically what they are and how they score. And then just a quick reference guide on the back. For your turn, the 3 actions you can take during your turn, and then when they lead to an auction is a flow chart here basically. So very nice. Like I said, I did not learn how to play from a rule book, so I want to point that out just in case. I think it's worth noting. The next thing we have here is the ginormous bag for our tokens. And this is one of the things that's slightly different in the Pharaoh edition. It is slightly bigger because the tokens are bigger. Get in here, and our tokens in the deluxe version are wood. And I like the wood because the colors seem to come out a lot brighter. But you can see here, mine's already starting to have a little issue on the edges. I'm worried about how long they're going to last before they start chipping up, which is kind of disappointing. But overall, they're real nice, real thick tiles too. And these are what you're going to be drawing out of here and placing up on the auction grid to bid on your turn. You press your luck, basically. If you draw one of these Horus tiles, which I just had in my hand, then it pretty much ends your turn, forces an auction. Versus if you draw anything else, it goes on the auction grid, and then it goes on to the next player. We'll get to that when we get to the gameplay, but very nice components in there, though. Very chunky. Everything in wood in this is very chunky, which I like. Those in the base game, I don't know if I mentioned, are just cardboard tokens, which are still very nice. The color's a little duller, but they may hold up better than the wood, which I'm kind of concerned about. Next thing we have is this bag, and this is going to be our scoring tokens, which in this deluxe version are these two-tone metal coins, and they're like a silver finish on the back and a gold copper on the front. They do have a wash on them. Doesn't show up too terribly well. I've seen people paint these, and the original idea was that around the numbers was going to be colored and enameled. Something happened in production and they couldn't do that, but These seem pretty good. I'm a little worried over time that the glue might come apart between the two, but I haven't had any issues with it yet. And they do have a nice satisfying feel to them as well. But they're pretty easy to see. I do think the color would make them stand out a little bit more, especially when you're reaching in the middle to grab a certain denomination. If they were easier to tell apart, it'd be easier. Once you get them, you flip them face down because your scores are kind of secret. And you don't have to do that, but overall, I like them. In the base game, these are just cardboard tokens. Again, they're bright and colorful in those, where these are just the two-tone. So your mileage may vary on which you prefer. That is it for the deluxe components. The wood tokens, the bigger bag, the metal coins. Everything else in here comes in both editions of the game. Even the bag, like I said, comes in the other versions, just smaller. The next thing we have here are our sun tokens. And these, again, big chunky wooden tokens. And depending on the number of players are the different numbers that you're going to use. These are what you're going to be using to bid on your auctions. The highest number bid wins the auction. That number goes into the center and is now up as part of the next auction. At the beginning of the game, number 1 starts in the middle. At the end of the game, you also can score points based on your total. Whoever has the highest total between all of their suns gets a bonus points. Whoever has the lowest loses points. So ideally, you want to keep your numbers pretty high. Also, the higher your numbers, the better chances of you winning an auction that you want. If you're stuck with the 1, the only chance you're going to win is if nobody else bids against you. So got to keep that stuff in mind. And then as you bid for these, like I said, the one that you bid will go into the middle of the board. The one that you win will come back to you, and you flip it face down. When all 3 of yours are face down, you're out for that round. So they kind of built-in timer thing, too. So you got to pick and choose when you want to use your bids, because you only have those 3 bids for the entire round. And once you're bid out, you're out of the round. You don't take any further part in it. And the last of the wood bits here, I stuffed them all in one container. Again, big chunky wood bits. I might have to put these in a different bag. They don't exactly all fit in there. We have the Ra statue here. This is what you're going to use to invoke Ra. So if you want to start an auction on your turn as your action, you're going to put this in front of you to designate you're the one who started it. If you claim you invoke Ra to start your own auction, you're forced to bid on that auction. So if nobody else bids, you have to. If an auction is forced to start by drawing one of the Ra tiles out of the bag, then you're not forced to bid in that. And if everybody passes all the way around, it just keeps going. Next we have the Sunboat marker. And this is something new that was added to this edition to the game. And when I get to the board, we'll show you that. But in the previous versions of the game, this allows you to do that as well. You would take the Ra tiles that you pull out of the bag and you lay them across the top of the track. And when the track gets full, that ends the round, whether people are done bidding or not. So there's kind of a forced timer in there. It's a push your luck kind of mechanic. In this version, on the flip side of the board, they have a track you put this boat on, and the boat just moves along. And when it gets to the final day, it ends. Same concept, just done differently. I like that they let you do both, though. And the final wood component we have is this token here. And this is used to keep track of the rounds. I believe they're called epochs, or I can't pronounce it, so I just called them rounds. But in this one, you're going to leave it there. It'll be on the green side. Then you're going to flip it over. Oh, I had it backward. You'll be on the green side. You flip it over to the yellow side. Then you'll remove it, and there's a red token for the 3rd round. Game lasts 3 rounds. And the last thing we have in the box here is the player boards and the game board. So our game board, it's actually smaller than I expected. Oh, I had it right the first way. It goes this way. And this side is for the boat. This side is for the tokens. If you want to use them, like I was saying, as you pull out the Ra tokens from the bag, of course now I'm not going to be able to find any, they're going to line up on these spots across here, starting where, depending on the number of players you have. So in a 2-player game, you're going to start there, 3-player here, 4, 5. And then when this row gets full, this is where this token goes over here on your green side, and it flips, and so on. And when it removes, that's your final round. On the flip side of the board, you're going to start the boat, again, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, 5-player, and it's going to move each time one of those raw tiles is drawn from the bag. Here in the middle, it's originally going to start your number 1 sun token. As people bid, that's where the one that's up for bid goes. So on each of your turns, you're going to, basically you hand the bag, you're going to draw the bag, and you're going to pull out a token, and then you're going to put that on there. Once there's a couple tokens out here, got some monuments, and see, there's a civilization. And just for reference, we should have a token out here. So once there's a few of these out here, you're going to have the option to either draw a tile from the bag and add it to the board, or you can invoke Ra by taking the token here. That's going to start a round of auction. Whenever you invoke Ra, either through the statue or by drawing the tile, you're going to bid last, and it goes around the board. Each player bids what they want for what's currently showing. So in this case, you have the 2, you have a Nile token, a civilization token, 2 monuments, and a god token out here, which is a very nice haul. And each player is going to bid their number, so they'll take whatever current number they have, and they'll say, I bid an 11. And then the next player down says, oh, well, I'm going to bid my 13. Well, they get their token back. 13 is now winning, and it goes around the board. Whoever ends up with the highest bid is going to take the auction. They're going to take everything here, put their 13 that they bid in there. The one that they win will go face down in front of them, and then these get distributed on their player board, which I'll show you in a minute here. The other option you can do is, once you have some tiles in your name, if you have one of these god tiles here, and say we got a few more tiles out here, if you have one of these god tiles in your possession, you can spend them to buy basically a tile that's in play. Say you didn't have a Civ token yet and it's getting towards the end of the game, you lose, or the round, you lose points for not having one. So maybe you want to spend your god token to get a Civ token, or you could spend it to get an extra Pharaoh token, or whatever else is out here. Sometimes there's a monument you need to complete a collection, but you don't want to bid on the entire auction. You could spend your god token to grab a monument. Any one token out of here, basically, you get to grab for that. Those are kind of useful, but also if you save them, they're worth points as well. So it's kind of a trade-off if you want to spend them or want to use them for points. If they're spent, they go back in the box, not back in the bag, because there's a limited number of tiles available. So keep that in mind as well. Once you've won an auction and you've gotten some of these tiles, we're going to put the rest of this stuff away, just off to the side. So you got a bunch of tiles in front of you. You're going to have your player board here. And everybody has one of these. There are 2 sides. I think they're for different player counts. Yeah, they're for different player counts based on the numbers here. And even gives you tips on what to put on them if you have certain player boards. So these are what you're going to start with. If you're playing a 5-player game, you're going to get the 14, the 9, and the 4 with this board. If you're playing a 3-player game, you're going to get the 11, the 10, and the 1. And the 4. You apparently get 4 and I don't think I've ever played the game 3-player. But anyway, you're going to have this in front of you. As you collect your tiles, you're going to set them up. They have symbols on the top here that match the symbols on the board. So you can match up where to put things. Monuments go over here. I generally like to put mine in rows. of different ones this way, and then I stack them up and down as I get multiples of the same. You can do it however you want. There's different scoring for how you score them listed down here, and up here is the when you score them. So monuments only score at the end of the game during the red phase. Then we have our others. You got your pharaohs here. So we're going to stack our pharaohs out here. Your floods go here. Or what is it? No, the other way around. Your regular Niles go here. Your floods go over here. God tiles go up here. And then civilization tiles go here. I like to keep them together too. Like I have two of the same here. So when you go to do the scoring, everything on the left side you get to keep. Everything on the right side is going to go away. And there's some nuance to how you get the things. So your god tiles, you like I said before, you can use them to steal a tile basically from the auction before without having to buy the whole auction. Or they're worth 2 points each. There's gold tiles, which I hadn't actually pulled one out yet. And they are worth 3 points each. The civilization tiles, so if you don't have any civilization tiles, you get negative 5 points. So you always want to have at least one of these guys. For every 3 unique ones, you get 5 points. So in this case, we only have 2 unique, so we wouldn't get anything for it. For 4 unique, you get 10, and for 5 unique, you get 15. So ideally, you want to get one of everybody, but there's also disasters in there that can kill off guys, so you want to make sure you might have a couple extra just in case that comes up. Down here we have our flood tiles, which I didn't get any of. When the flood tiles come out, they basically are what trigger the scoring for the Nile rivers over here, which are off the screen I just noticed. So down here in the bottom we have our Nile tokens. And you can have as many of the Nile tokens as you want. They're worth nothing unless you have at least one flood. And the floods wipe out every round, so you got to make sure you get another one. You keep your Niles, so you can have a whole pile of these, but without one of these, they're not worth nothing. If you have a flood, then it and every one of your Niles are worth 1 point. So they add up, and you can score quite a lot with that, because you get it every time as long as you get that flood. Next thing here are the pharaohs, and the pharaohs are an oddball one. If you have the most out of everybody at the table, you get 5 points. If you have the least out of everybody at the table, you get negative 2 points. And if you're tied with somebody, you get 0. And then up here, we have our monuments. And the monuments have all kinds of weird scoring, which is good because they only score once at the end of the game. But for sets of them at the top here, if you have 3 of a kind, you get 5. 4 of a kind, you get 10. 5 of a kind, you get 15. Whereas if you have unique ones, if you have 1 to 6 unique ones, they're worth 1 point. If you have 7 uniques, they're worth 10 points. 8 uniques are 15. And these 1 to 6 are worth 1 each. Didn't mention that. But that's how you basically get your scoring. And as I said, at the end, after you've done your scoring, you're going to take the tiles equal to however much you scored. And they're going to go off your board there, face down, so nobody can see them. These tiles get removed from the game, and you go on to the next round. It was kind of a quick overview on how to play, but I mean, I think you get the gist of it there, hopefully. If not, leave a comment below, but there's plenty of others who go into a full tutorial on how to play. This is more just an overview. Overall, I really like the game. I've liked it in the past. I like previous versions of it, so this is just a more modern version of it with updated and nicer components. There is a complaint between people about how this version's much more colorful. Older versions were much more monotone and had like a earth clay-like appearance to it. This one really goes in the full, I mean, you can tell just by the box art, very bright and colorful, which is fine because Egyptian stuff was bright, colorful. They had lots of golds and blues and purples. So nothing wrong there. It's just personal opinion, really. I did like the foreign version that had the player boards, which were a huge help before this version. Now that this version's out, you have the player boards. They definitely make things easier, especially when it comes to scoring. I really like the quick setups on here, so you don't have to reference the instruction book every time you go to play a game. You look at here, based on the number of players, you're going to have a different amount of tokens in this one, even because if you're playing with only 3 players, you're not going to need the backside of it. So they really took a lot into consideration on here. The one weird thing that people point out is that because these flip over, on this side there's no divot in between the monuments because this is all one section. However, when you're flipping it over on the other side, now there's a knob there and there isn't one on this side. Doesn't mean anything, you just gotta separate them on your own. Honestly, that's the only silly complaint I have about them, and it's not even a functional thing there. Overall, I really like the game. I am concerned about the longevity of the wooden tiles, though. Like I said, some of mine are starting to chip. You really notice it on the raw ones because they're dark colored all the way around. You can see the edges chipping. This one, like I said, this one looks great. So maybe it's just a fluke thing on a couple pieces, and it's not going to be a major issue. These ones, I think, are going to last much nicer because the printing doesn't go right to the end. They're actually painted wood, and then the printing is in the middle. So it's just the ones of these where they go right to the edge. Maybe if they had backed these pictures down just a hair and left a border around them, it probably would have remedied that situation. It's also worth noting, for some strange reason, the backs of the wooden tiles are this color here, beigeish. The backs of the cardboard tokens, for some reason, are like this aqua blue. They're the color these tokens are. They have that color on the back, which I'm not sure why they did that. It's just very strange. But I'll show you how chunky these are. They actually stand up. And that's on the tablecloth too. But overall, I love the game. I liked multiple versions of it. And this is probably the best version that has come out. Don't feel too upset, though, about the deluxe version if you can't get a hold of it. The normal version is perfectly fine. Like I said, the only differences between the standard and the deluxe version are the metal coins instead of cardboard tokens. These are wood instead of cardboard. And this bag and the box are slightly bigger in the deluxe edition, which, if you're looking for shelf space, the slightly smaller box actually might be a better way to go anyway. And the big killer on this, and the one that put me off, I actually received this as a gift because I wasn't going to buy the deluxe version myself. I was going to get the retail version. Somebody gifted this to me. The deluxe version costs double what the retail version does, which that was a killer for me. So definitely you're perfectly fine with the retail version. Don't feel bad if you don't get the deluxe one. You're not missing much. Overall, though, it is a great game. And like I said before, I've loved previous versions of it. And it's just good to have my own copy now instead of me playing other people's. And yeah, I think this is the best one that's out there, too. That's going to wrap it up for our look at Raw. I hope it helps you decide if it is something worth picking up. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.